Assalamu alaikum. Hi, everybody. Um, Thank you so much for taking the time and being here. Um, we we just wanted to have a closing conversation with the students and with mentors of Recess, the after school program, uh, and yeah, talk about like the learning journeys and alternative modes of education that we explored through the program. Uh, Hi, is everyone coming in? Amazing. So me, I'm Sahrish. I worked with Maria and the learning team uh, on developing the program, and my co-facilitator, Naila Afar, Dr. Effat, our mentor and friend. We had Abdelelah Qutub and Rizwana, who's Nooh's mom. Nooh is sitting at the back. Yeah, I maybe everyone can introduce themselves.
Hi, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Rizwana. I had a child on this program, Noah. He's sitting at the back. The reason I'm here actually is to talk about our journey through education, which wasn't conventional, but we will talk about that later. I'm an English teacher from the UK, so my experience here has been quite interesting through teaching and other things as well. So we will talk about that in a bit. Pass you on.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Hayy, for having us for this closing session. I'm very happy to be here with you. My name is Effat Fadag. I'm associate professor. I'm working for education for a long time. And I'm an artist and a curator, and I was very part of this amazing program with Hayy in the beginning, and I hope hopefully that we can also continue our journey together.
Hello everyone, I'm Naila and I was part of the learning team as well, helping out with recess. I come from an art and design background, and we're also here, and we're all here to talk about the journey of recess and the learnings that kind of like came into it. And I'll leave the floor now to Abdelelah.
Hi, I'm Abdelelah Qutub. I'm a practicing architect, and I came in as the exhibition designer. And I do have some background in teaching. Yeah, this is a pleasure. I think I'll Sahash.
Thanks, everyone. My background and learning journey has been a bit unconventional as well. I was homeschooled until grade 4, and that was the most enriching time of my life. What we learned through play, through practical work, and collaborative things like hands-on stuff. And then I went to a public school and continued my learning journey. I have a background in computer science and traditional art. I love working and interacting with young people. I work very closely with the learning and research team here at Hayy, and one of our philosophies is lifelong learning and creating spaces for different age groups to have this experience where they find out where people of different ages find out what works for them when it comes to learning and being creative. We started with a children's space, which is this Hayy Explorers, and it was initially serving ages up to 13-year-olds, and we, Maria and I, we wanted to also highlight the teenage age group, and we found that was a gap that needed to be filled, and that's where Recess came to be. Yeah. And recess, when we were thinking about this program, we didn't just want it to be like any other after school program where people come in and they're, we wanted it to be something where the students who are part of the program, they have agency to take this learning experience into their own hands, and they find what works for them. So we based off of the program on certain pillars that Dr. Effat, she came in and mentored us on developing this program. And one of the first things that she told us when we were building it up was to define the pillars and the values on which this would stand. Maybe I'll give the floor to you to speak a little bit about
the pillars. We have to think about the pillars, and we have to remember the pillars, which is very important. I don't know if you guys remember the pillars or no of this program. Okay, so the important thing for me, as Sahraj was saying, giving you a background briefly about me as well. I was doing school normally, but I was challenging myself from a young age with experiments, different artworks, different math, problem solving. So I was always giving my students, not my students, my teachers, a headache in their heads, because I get the result, but in a long process. So this is for me was a challenging, because I always like to challenge myself in different way since a young age. So when I came with them as well, I was working with Naqsh Art Studio. I have my own experiment with my students and trying to develop these inner voices that all students have, that they don't understand. How do they bring it out to the public and bring it out? And they're very shy to bring it out for themselves as well. So one of the important things is asking, putting research as part of the pillars as well. Putting research in terms of why are we doing this? How are we doing this? When are we doing this? And why? And part of that also is a critical thinking and critical aspect of negotiating the examples that we are thinking of, and doing a different thing, that it's not just us delivering the knowledge, but also giving the younger children and the learners the opportunity also to be a or an author of that program as well. So because it's not just us alone who are giving this. Art itself has an ability to challenge every one of us, have the ability to question, and have the ability to put forward our identity, our social engagement with the public, with the things around us. And if we don't know that, and if we don't listen to these inner thoughts that we are thinking of, we won't be able to be part of that negotiation. We won't be part of that community. And this is what the important thing that we thought about it. And one of the things also we thought about is, how are we going to do this? Flexibility is part of it, because it's not just us. It's sometimes we make ourselves in a better position, in a powerful position, that we know everything, but unfortunately it doesn't work like that in the artwork, and also in different disciplines. So we need to make sure that all the disciplines are together. It's a multidisciplinary approach that we're thinking of. So the research, the practice, the theory is all into one, and ensuring that all the participants or the learners have the ability to blend in that community and be part of it, slowly, but in a very strong way, depending on every one of them. And I think that this is what will happen during the journey.
Thank you, Dr. Effat. And on that point, I would say that with every group that we've taught, it's a different experience, and especially this group was so special. There was a wide range of, firstly, the age range was quite wide, and like the capabilities and like the backgrounds of the students. One of the things that you mentioned to me was like, given the diverse group, how do we manage to keep ourselves flexible? Like we can plan, but when we're actually teaching, we have to be adaptable and change according to the group. Yeah. We had students who are homeschooled and students from public schools and international schools. All of this kind of really shaped the program itself. And on that note, maybe I'll give the mic to you, Rizwana. Rizwana is Noor's mom, and she has a very interesting approach to education and finding alternative ways as well.
Hello again. Okay, so I just want to talk a little bit about how I became a homeschooler. So I went to school, obviously, in the UK, and I had a traditional upbringing. So I went to traditional school, and I actually thrived in that environment because it was very academic, and I was an academic. So I liked the competition. I liked, having exams, etc. As I went through school, I went to university, I qualified as a teacher, and then I began my teaching career in the UK and taught there for many years, had different experiences. And it was, like very fulfilling. But one of the things that I kept coming across was students who were struggling. And being an academic student, I didn't realize that students struggled and how much they struggled, especially students who weren't very academic. So I came to Saudi Arabia eventually to teach as well, which was an interesting experience. It was very fulfilling as well. And it was completely different just teaching in the UK. And then I got married and I was pregnant with Noor. And I was thinking, okay, so being an educator, how am I going to educate my children? What will my story be? And the more I researched and the more I thought about it, I thought to myself, I don't want to put him in traditional school because I don't know what kind of a person he's going to be. So this was the kind of conversation I started to have with myself and with my husband. Well, how do I want to, raise my child? And so the concept of homeschooling I'd never come across before. So I came across somebody who was homeschooling and I started to ask questions. And then it just became like a conversation in our household as well. So homeschooling can be many different things. For us, it was more of an unschooling approach, which is something that I don't know if anybody's come across here. So it was something that John Holt came up with in 1977. So it's quite an old theory. And what it does is it takes the child away from the traditional school approach and makes it a sort of a more holistic approach. So you're raising each individual child instead of putting them through the same system. So this was quite a challenge because you have to, first of all, figure out what your child is like and what they actually need and what their personality type is before you can actually even put together a program. So I happily went into pregnancy and then having Noah and then realizing what kind of a character he was. Then I started to develop, how will I train him? How will I raise him? So we decided to do a Waldorf approach. And those of you who are not sort of well-versed in educational pedagogy, you might be thinking, what is Waldorf? So it's a holistic, artistic, creative approach to education. And it's very hands-on skill-based. So this is what I thought would be ideal for Noah. And then later on, when his sister came along, we continued with that as well because it was working very well. It was also with a lot of sort of unschooling, which was mainly play-based learning and also nature-based learning. So we went to forest schools, we went out a lot, we went to the desert, we traveled a lot. And, it kind of built the personality and the characteristics and the skills that I wanted my children to have. So I know it's very unconventional, and I'm just very grateful that I had the ability or the opportunity to do that, because I know that's not, something that everybody can do. But it did sort of the job for us anyway. And I hope that inspires other people, because even if you didn't do it fully as I did it, just the elements of allowing children to just be and be creative, or just not understanding just that delaying the academics until the age of 7, for example. That was one of the main things that I liked about Waldorf, that you don't introduce the idea of even reading until the age of 7, which I know is kind of strange for most people, because most people want their children to read early, and I was not bothered at all. So I didn't even do alphabet until 7. I was criticized for it, but I didn't really see that as a problem because I was an educator. So I felt quite confident thinking, well, this will work. And it did, because at the age of 7, when we did introduce that, it was quite simple. Yeah, that's my unconventional approach. I'll pass you back.
Thank you. I like building this program. Also, we wanted it to be unconventional, and it was really important for us, whoever is going to be a part of this program, learns certain soft skills as well as the artistic skills to impart. One of the main things we wanted to really emphasize was kids working together and forming friendships and like this collaborative air during the entire program. So the program pillars it was structured such that we have 4 studio hours, which was like the foundation building for the first half of the duration of the program. Up until Ramadan, we did some studio visits. We went to Waffle Art Space. We went to Nudge Studio with Effat and Ahad, where we saw Sindbad and the studio itself. And then going into Ramadan was like the midway through the program, where we focused a bit on research that the students would do. And once they came back, we had a session with exhibitions, and Abdelelah, he came in during that point, and that really shifted gears within the program. And from being very theoretical and base building, it became very hands-on and practical work, which Abdelelah really mentored the students on. And maybe you can talk a bit more about that.
Hi everyone. I'll also talk about my educational background as well. I think I'll start from the beginning. My dad is a diplomat, so I've moved around a lot, and I lived in the US, the UK, and India, and Saudi, and so I've gone through all of those education systems, and I've met a lot of people from different classes. So I think that background really helped me connect with the students a lot easier, because it was just, for me, a much more natural experience. And then even when I was in university, I did teach undergrad as an undergraduate, taught underclassmen. So that for me also felt really natural, and this felt like a continuation. Coming in here, I think my approach to designing the space was to connect with the students first, and figure out how they viewed their work, how they wanted to conceptualize it in the space itself. And Sahrash and the exhibitions team had them lay things out, start to establish this relationship between each other, conceptually, okay, they're thinking, my work discusses these conceptual topics, and then this other student's work discusses these other ones that are similar. So let's be next to each other to highlight, or since we're similar, or maybe we have opposite ones next to each other to highlight them. So I think involving the students in that was really good. And then I worked with each student throughout the month and a half, 2 months that I was here, to not just have the work be contained in itself, but also encourage them to understand how it fits spatially, and then how to connect it to the others in a spatial sense. So, for example, we have Muslim's work, which is really defined its space, which is with with the net and the cloak. So like each of them kind of started to work things out, and then there was this reaction between each of them together, and then there was this impulse to kind of close everything off and have walls everywhere, but I really pushed against that to kind of really open things up, get these kind of unintentional kind of connections between different spaces. So the space you're in, you still have this connection with the works, but you're still spatially separated. But I think I'll pass it off to Naila.
When you were working with the students, I think it also, everybody who's listening from our students, it kind of like gave them an insight into problem solving as well, and like changing things when something didn't work out, and like the skill of adapting to these changes. I think that was a really important work that happened during that while. And like through this like hands-on work, I feel like the group bonded a lot more, because we're all like we were camped in two spaces. So this was where the construction was going on, and we were on the other side at Rukun. That's where our studio works was happening for like about 2 weeks. And there were moments in the studio hours where students really like started to talk to each other and problem solve with one another, and I feel like those are really special moments that we had. And in that same vein of collaborative work, I know that when we were into it and we wanted to like just move towards the showcase, and everybody has so much energy that they just want to get things done fast. I feel like the element of mindfulness and taking things in a reflective way is where Naila really added to the program. That collective work that you see there, the prints hanging, that's something that Naila worked on with everybody, and it wasn't just a one-time thing. Maybe I'll let you.
Thank you, Sahrish. So just kind of like picking up on that, I feel like throughout my journey, it's been very unconventional. I do come from an art and design background, and that kind of like developed over time into a lot of other things. But when I kind of like look back in retrospect, I think building on the program and being part of Recess, it's also kind of like finding the commons and bridging the gap between education, art and learning, and the contemporary art world as well. So dealing with a lot of our students, because of also like the age gap, from like 14 all the way up to 18. And it's like that coming of age where you're kind of like navigating the world in a very different way. I think one thing in schools that they don't teach us is kind of like how to regulate and how to kind of like understand and internalize what's happening, and also find a space to kind of like externalize that. And these are very, very important skills to kind of like develop. And what's nice about this program is that it did look at this from a very holistic point of view. Like they didn't just kind of like look at them like teenagers, and it wasn't just from a lens of conventional learning, but having that continuous education and unconventional learning as well, and bringing in what happens, in our day to day. So we were really kind of like trying to hone into that mind. I don't like the word mindfulness because it's just becoming it's like a buzzword, but more kind of like integrative. How can we look at things differently? How can we understand things and observe as well while we're learning? And this is something, of course, it's lifelong. It's not something that's going to happen in one day. But when you have these foundations ready, maybe a year from now, 5, 10, God knows, you're going to look back and go like, oh, we learned something. We saw something different. But throughout that process, we kind of like collectively took in we went from natural materials and learning about dyes to kind of like printmaking to also focusing on oratory skills and writing skills. So that's kind of like how it all came in together. And of course, there was a lot of challenges to kind of like so that everybody would be on the same space and understanding. And that's where like the empathy was kind of like starting to build in. Yeah. And I'll give the floor back to you.
Speaking of challenges, there's a lot of things that we learned through the program, not just like through teaching and like through interactions, but also the students working with one another, and the growth that happened from there. I feel like there's maybe in a bit we'll also ask some of the students to speak a little bit about their learning journey and the things that they took from the program, but also like what were some of the challenges that they overcame, and maybe some that still exist. But before that, when we were talking to Dr. Effat and also Rizwana, we talked a little bit about like what the youth face today and what we saw through some of our teachings. Maybe.
So it's not just the youth that they're facing, we us as well, facing a lot of changes and very vast movement, let's say. For them, I think it's a journey. They're going with the flow. What's happening with the technology, all this tools that they're having, and working with it as part of their own education system. For us as an older generation, maybe it's also difficult for us. It's challenging for us to navigate these new tools and understand and be in the pace with them. So I always say that I'm not just teaching, I'm running. I'm running with them to understand how they think, to make sure that I am with them in the flow rather than I'm back in the shadow of their movement. So it's very challenging for all the people who are in the education system to be with this new young generation who is very well equipped with different new every second a new technology has come and they know about it, and I knew it. I always knew it from my students, from their eyes, until I get the keys for them to open up and we have this dialogue and conversation. Is having these conversations is very difficult for me, for my experience. And also I think they're very clever to understand who to talk to and where to talk to and understand their own community to work with. And I think this program gave them also another opportunity of looking into not just the technological aspect of communication, but also the human wise one, with all these field trips that they went and the opportunity that they can gather through different movements. Yes, I think this is one of the challenges that we have in terms of education, just to make sure that we run with them in that same pace that they're doing. You want to add something?
Just to kind of like add on that, to also based on like the foundation of this curriculum of how like the emergence of the contemporary art world, specifically here in the Arab world, it's also something that's been, it's still raw, it's still happening. Having something like that here, and based on what Dr. Effat was saying about kind of like it being reciprocated, we're also learning. It's like a give and take, and it's also based on like observation as well, to also kind of like find a common language between us and like the students. And also things are changing quite fast, and it's like there's a lot of information out there. How do we make sense of it? How do we kind of like extrapolate what we're learning to kind of like learn about that filter more or less? But yeah, and Dr. Effat was also my teacher in university, so it's really nice to see how things have unfolded over years and how things change. I think that's the real beauty of learning, is that you never really know where you're going to end up being, but you just have to like really be open. And I think that's, Sahrish is going to tell you more about the motto of being in the learning team, which is really kind of like all about like the growth mindset and being open. And also we miss Maria, she's not here, but like, there was a lot of, and Hadil and Rahaf, you know, it was a Sada Hamami as well, like a lovely experience, but I'll leave this to Sahrish.
I'm just going to add something as well. It's about creativity. And one of the things that also maybe it's very important for us in the art field is what is defining what is creative forms. And I think this program showed us also how do we define the creativity? How do we push it forward? How can we think about it differently? So I think the young generation and all the artwork and artists has to think about it in a different way. So it's not just a one definition, but the multi-layers, and we don't know exactly what is it, and it's the unknown that we spoke about. And this is the journey. This is the beautiful journey of it. So we are moving and opening doors that has not been opened before.
I feel it. Yeah.
I just wanted to add to that because I love the fact that you're saying that, because when I first came to Saudi Arabia, it was, I struggled with the whole, project-based learning even. And it was a challenge to introduce projects to students and say, okay, well, you're going to work on this yourself, because a lot of students would struggle with that concept. So I love the fact that you introduced this program, which is so kind of almost, just open and creative and breaking the four barriers, the four walls of the classroom, and that's one of the things that I think I was trying to do. And I that's one of the reasons I put Noah in this program, because when I saw it advertised, I was thinking, wow, that's exactly what I want for him. So, I think you guys did an amazing job. So just wanted to add that.
Do you have any challenges
there? Challenges for my son. I think he struggled with, I think he knows this as well, with timing and sort of, the normal challenges that students face, finishing a project, which is a huge, challenge for anybody, for all of us as well, meeting deadlines, procrastination. And, we had some late nights. But, I'm proud of him because he finished, and I'm proud of him that he had that opportunity to finish such a huge project. And get to the end and be proud of what he did, even though he felt that it wasn't what he wanted to achieve. He still achieved something pretty amazing. So, as a homeschooler, for him to do that is pretty good, because we don't do exam-based learning. We do project-based learning. So usually it's just you finish a project and there's no kind of deadline. So for him to have a deadline, and not only a deadline, but to have to present his work and to have people on his back saying, why is this not done? And I think it was good for him, and it wasn't me. So, it wasn't his mom saying, why isn't your project finished? So I think he learned a lot from that. Maybe he wants to add something.
Do you want to say something?
I think something, at least for me, I think that I really appreciate about how Sahrish, Maya, and Naila approach the program is they're wanting to kind of push away theory a little bit, and kind of this just sitting in the studio all day and kind of exposing students to real world art practice. And I think, at least for me, my contribution is to kind of bring that from a production standpoint. Like, okay, we're okay, you have to do this, this, and this. And it's like, write a list. Where are we getting this specific material? Where are we getting this paint? Where are we getting that? And like, I know it's like a very kind of natural inclination to be like, okay, I'll just make this and I have this amount of time. But then, like, when you actually break it down, it ends up being this kind of big thing to take on, and you end up kind of adding on more things. And I know that's something I think it just got, things kept piling up, and it's kind of a common theme. But yeah, I think this is something I really think is also important, is being able to kind of what this program I think gives students is the safe space where they're able to kind of face these real challenges of an artist, but in a way where their failure isn't that big of a deal, and then they're able to experiment more freely, given that kind of safety net. And then once they're out in the real world, they are able to kind of have a bit more experience. And I think for me also is it just kind of trying to also kind of treat them a little bit more like adults. So really putting in the effort to treat this as like a real art exhibition and not just something for teenagers, and giving them that respect, I think, was very vital for me.
Agency. Like we were talking about this to kind of like give them the agency and the ability to kind of like navigate the unknown. Like I think that's one common theme everybody's gonna face throughout life. But I think for teenagers, it's like a complete beginning. Like, oh, I have to do things on my own, and then you just build on that in your 20s and your 30s. Yeah.
To have some of the students also come in. Do you think maybe okay. Does anyone want to join the conversation?
Anyone.
Yalla, Alia, who else? Noor? Anas? Anas and Wazin also. Do you guys want to actually come here? Alright, cool. Hi, Alia. How are you? Okay. Anas, do you want to...
Okay, so my project was about nature, and because I chose nature because I find nature such an important thing, like migration from one place to another, traveling from one place to another. Like for me, I was living in London for half a year, so for me, I experienced a really nice journey. And in school, they told me to do this poem, so I did a poem, and I got published for it at the age of 12, and now I'm 14 years old. And I used that poem in my project in recess, and I added more about it for Jeddah. And it was such a nice experience, learning about new stuff, communicating with new people, learning with new stuff. It was such a fun experience, I would say.
For me, it was like applying for this program because I already finished high school. They said, oh, only like schoolers because it's an after school program. I don't have school. I graduated from high school. And I was like, will they accept me in the program or not? Like, I was so scared actually of like getting rejected. Not just getting rejected, but of the idea that I will not be able to do anything in arts in general because I didn't have the opportunity to do arts in high school. I always wanted it. I always like told my teachers, oh, I really want to do this. I want to do design. Why we don't do this? They said no, like basically no. And I was like, why not? So getting like in the program and doing many like studio practices helped me with my artistic view, and it widened my vision in general.
Okay, so Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Muzin Muhammad Reyes, and I was a student in the recess, the program. Honestly, this program, this journey is, I could say it's transformative. It changed me so much as a person. I feel like I learned so much, and I feel like يعني حياتي يعني how am I supposed to say this اتطورت مرة كثير
not just in my art. طبعا I learned so many new things in art. بس في طريقة تعاملي مع الناس، في طريقة يعني اتعلمت the different dynamics حقت الexhibit. I talked, like I learned so many, like I thought an exhibit was just like people putting their art. But going through this journey, it was so much more. I felt like it was something very new to me. I love art, but I've never been in anything professional. So I feel like it was so new to me, and I learned so many new things. يعني, for example, تعلمت كيف أتعامل مع curator, the architect, the different people اللي معايا. I learned يعني, thank you so much to Abdelelah and Mr. Misnala. We learned how the exhibit itself has a sort of rhythm, and how different artworks interact with each other. Like, for example, my artwork and Alia's are probably the most similar, which is why we put them next to each other. So there's like a sense of like transition. And I feel like transition is all, like recess is all about transition. We're all like, the age we're at is the biggest transition period. وغير كده, we're all going through changes in our life, and recess is all about that. So I feel like this opportunity was one of the best opportunities I've ever had the pleasure of having, and I'm so grateful, and I'm so happy I got to meet all these new people, and thank you so much.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Effat Fadag, and honestly, I just want to first start off with how, like, I thought, like, when I first joined Recess. Honestly, when I first joined, I thought I didn't really fit in, because, like, I did have a very creative mind, and I think I was very creative, but I wasn't a very artistic person. And especially from the first meeting, everyone was so artistic. They, like, did many things and everything like that, and I was just there. I didn't have like any special thing, and I honestly didn't think I have any talent in art. I just joined because I wanted to get better at art and just like improve in general. But throughout this program, honestly, it like really helped me see so much like in life, honestly, because of the people I met, like all the new people I met all the people I like were friends with like after the program. And also I found that I actually do have some talents, and like this program like helped me figure out what are those talents that I never knew I had. And for like what I wanted to do for my final project, which is right like over there in the back, I really wanted there to be like a deeper meaning to it. I didn't want it to just like be something I'm passionate about, but also something that people can relate to, and like something that even if someone doesn't know the meaning of it, they can like connect to it. So it would be a universal piece. My piece is called The Change of Oneself, and it's basically how when people change themselves for the satisfaction of others, to fit into society, to fit into like the norm, which honestly I think people shouldn't change themselves for other people. And I feel like we always see that in social media, and how we always have to keep up with trends and have to always like follow celebrities and all of these like really unrealistic like expectations. And I feel like I just really want people to be themselves and not be judged by society just by how different they are. And that's it.
Is this any Nooh, do you want to come and share your journey? No? We're right. Yes. Does anyone have any questions from the audience? I can ask questions. Nothing. Honestly, it's been so gratifying to see all our students grow, but we've also grown with the students, and like maybe talk about a little bit of the challenges that many of them face. I think like, for instance, like artist block. Like, I don't know, Aline, do you want to talk about how in the beginning you had very, very high expectations and you had like a very big vision, but then throughout that process, like what did you learn?
So when we were like actually like starting on with the projects, I had no idea what I was gonna do. I didn't even know the meaning of like what I wanted to do. At first, like I just wanted to do something that I really liked, which was fashion. But then I realized that it was like kind of like something I like kind of unrealistic, and like I wanted something deeper than that. And I feel like I was one of the last people to really understand and to know what I wanted to do with my work. And honestly, I was really late. Like I was like really like behind. But throughout the whole like time that I was doing my project, honestly, I felt that it wasn't gonna work, and I felt like it wasn't going to be how I wanted it to be, and I thought like, oh, it's gonna be really bad. But in the end, literally the last day, it all came together. It all like worked out perfectly. It worked out how I wanted it to be. It gave the message that I wanted it to like give out, and it looked amazing. And I'm genuinely so proud of myself for going through everything and doing everything, and even being pressured. I'm so happy and so proud of myself for actually achieving the goals.
So do you want to you
بس حبيت أضيف شيء. I'm not sure if anyone معانا في البروجرام has felt the same thing. بس أنا الصراحة all I knew is that I love the ocean, and that I wanted that ينعكس إنه كنت أبغى حبي للبحر ينعكس على my artwork. I knew nothing about what I wanted to do. I did not know how I was gonna show that vision to people. ما كنت عارفة إيش أسوي. And then I was thinking, أنا صراحة دحين I'm going through this existential crisis حق تقديم الجامعات. فيعني I'm thinking دحين أنا إيش أقدم تخصص ومدري إيه. فكنت قاعدة أفكر أنا يعني my obsession with the ocean has always been there. يعني since وأنا عمري يمكن 4 I wanted to be a dolphin dentist. ما كنت أعرف إنه في شيء اسمه marine biology. I was thinking how does this resonate so deeply with me. بعدين افتكرت أنا اسمي أصلا مزن. مزن means cumulonimbus, or cloud filled with rain. And I was like, subhanallah, كيف يعني this specific obsession. I could have been obsessed with anything else, space, dinosaurs, history, anything, but the ocean resonates so deeply with me, subhanallah. I was thinking, what is a cloud without the ocean? What am I, Muzan, without the ocean? What are humans without the ocean? We wouldn't be here. And then what is Jeddah بتراثنا وهويتنا? What is Jeddah without the ocean? Without the Red Sea يعني in particular. فكنت أبغى ينعكس على my artwork, and alhamdulillah, I think it mirrored my feelings perfectly. My art piece was it was a cloak meant to represent the Red Sea, and it has I guess you can see it over here, and it has creatures like marine animals from the Red Sea embroidered, crocheted, all of that onto the cloak. And I wanted to represent how the Red Sea will always be forever, no matter like not only physically but like spiritually. It will always be in our hearts, in our history. So صراحة I wanted to capture that. So my idea was I wear the cloak and I'm traveling through 3 different landscapes. اللي هي الكورنيش, which is essentially the life of Jeddah. Everyone has childhood memories in الكورنيش. Through البلد, which is, it creates a sense of middleness, and also البلد, the walls of most of the houses were made out of tahalib from the Red Sea. And then going on to the desert, which essentially there's nothing there, So no matter how, like I wanted it to capture how I felt, how I feel in the Red Sea. No matter how many transitions we go throughout our life, which I've talked about transitions قبل شوية, no matter how many transitions and changes we go through, the Red Sea will always be constant. And as you can see in the video, the Red Sea, the cloak, it was always constant throughout the three landscapes. So I wanted to capture that. And honestly, I'm so grateful. يعني أنا الصراحة I don't know أصلا, I don't even remember how I thought of that. Abdelelah helped me with the video idea. I did not even think, like, did I even think of video? I don't remember at all. But all I knew was that I wanted to capture my love for the Red Sea. And alhamdulillah, من جد, the team, the teaching committee, all of them, like, من جد يعني, because of them, I knew how to develop my dream into reality. فبس والله. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a question for Noor. We've heard from the educators, we heard from the rest of the students, but you've been educated and home educated all your life? Yeah? All right. So I would just want to understand, how was your experience in an environment where learning with other colleagues? How was that different for you?
Can everyone hear me? Yeah. It was quite cool. I really enjoyed being able to basically learn whatever I wanted to, whenever I wanted, however I wanted. I could just basically decide, hey, I'm learning this tomorrow, and then just go and do it. So yeah, I really enjoyed that.
Can you talk a little bit about the development process and the game that you designed?
Yeah. So basically, I started. I didn't really know what I was gonna do. I decided. Someone asked me, what is the game you're making about? And then at that moment, I was like, wait, it'd be really cool if you could find inside your mind, because I already had an idea about that from a while ago, because I'd been thinking about that. I knew I wanted to make a third person, so I started a bit of development and playtesting. But yeah, so I was like, yeah, I'm gonna make a game where you fight inside your mind. And then after that, I came up with all sorts of mechanics and ideas and levels and stuff that most of it wasn't implemented. I personally don't actually like the game I made. I feel like it's not a very good game, but that's my personal opinion. But I'm glad that I finished it, because it's my first project. I didn't really know how to code before that. So I think in 3 months, I mean, it's a decent effort, I think. Yeah.
I think it's pretty amazing that you did a game in 3 months and you taught yourself how to code. Iman, you wanted to say something?
Thank you all so much. I think it's really a testament to the love and the effort that was put into this by the students and also the educators. I just wanted to pick on a point that Rizwana mentioned, which was, trying to understand and discover your Noh's personality to kind of tailor the approach to homeschooling. So I just wondered, what was that like? But then also in the context of recess, like for a lot of the students and the teenagers not knowing where to start or how to develop their projects, just making that kind of contrast. I wonder if we can hear from you on that, but also from the learning team, what that process looked like and to facilitate it.
Okay, so to assess his personality once he was born, as a toddler, he's going to be embarrassed, but I'm going to just embarrass him even more. As a toddler, he was very curious. I know this is normal, and I thought I was just being a proud mom because I thought he was amazing, because most moms do. But I realized that the child's, the more I read, I realized that a child's intelligence is at the peak when they are in the first few years, and that's when you develop them. So I was thinking, well, what would be the most ideal way to develop a child's mind? And And it kind of went from there. So the more you read, the more you realize you just put them in different environments. You make sure that their curiosities are answered. And the more I did that, the more I realized that if I put him in a school, it's going to be quashed, because everything that he wanted to do was completely sort of dangerous or unconventional. So I researched different types of schooling. I looked at Montessori. It wasn't really what I wanted to do. And then I found forest schools in the UK, and that basically meant I could drop him in a forest and he could run and he could find things and fall over and get up and make things and, learn how to make a fire or, do survival skills. And he was very into that at the time. And the teachers could facilitate that. And one of the things I remember one of the practitioners telling me, which was amazing, was that they're not going to really hurt themselves because they won't go further than what they can manage. So just even like allowing him to, he was climbing trees at that time and I was petrified, but you kind of just, she was like, trust the process. It's going to work. So I kind of, stood back and let him do it, and he was able to. So, it challenged me as a parent as well, because I was thinking to myself, as a teacher, you think that you have to teach, but really you're just a facilitator. So you're not really telling them anything they already know, which was kind of, going against the grain for me as a traditional teacher, where you think you are imparting knowledge, but at that age, you really aren't. You're just making sure they don't die. And they know exactly what to do. He knew what he was interested in. And from a very young age, he would tell me, oh, I want to do this. And I'd be thinking, well, how can I facilitate that? Can I facilitate it? And if it was possible, then we would, and that's how I learned what his personality type was. We didn't, like I said, start formal education till he was 7. So I had time from the time he was born to research that. And that research led to, like I said, the Waldorf approach, which is very child-centered. And unschooling is literally just not putting him in a traditional school. So you are teaching, whatever you think is necessary up to a certain age, and then you can follow a curriculum if you think that is, relevant. And the irony is now he's just hit 14, and I don't know if this is too personal for him, but I'm just kind of, but he's actually now very interested in academic learning and wants to be in a very structured environment, which I find quite shocking because, personally, I probably wouldn't, but he is actually asking for that. So, you don't know where it's going to go. It's a journey. And I, hope that all of you as parents, when you get to that stage, think about that and just think that, it doesn't have to be that structured. It doesn't have to be that rigid. It can, be a bit more. And especially programs like this, it allows them to kind of, discover things that maybe, like some of the students have said, they've never even had an opportunity to do. And they've been through sort of, years of education and not had the opportunity to look at their art education or their creative process, maybe. So maybe that's one of the things that we need to start doing, sort of giving them those opportunities.
Sorry. Yeah, I might have a question for everyone, but maybe also for you. It's like how was his relationship with technology and computer and fun in general? Because, for example, if you, I don't know, like even though that I went to public school, but also, for example, like I'm 31 now, but when I was young, the computer was my only way to navigate in the world, as a millennial. So how is it also for this generation, especially that now with every generation, like they have their own tech mediums, so how, especially like he also did, sorry if we are talking about you, but like also it's for everyone, like this self-learning idea through technology, and then also building a video game, it's also like a new medium as well, even in the art world.
Yeah, absolutely.
So since when he got used to navigate alone in the computer and study of self-learning?
Okay, so No's laughing at me at this point because in Waldorf education, one of the principles is that there's no screens before the age of sort of 10, I think. So we did no screens before the age of 10. So this was a challenge, obviously, because we live in a extremely tech-oriented world. And again, when I researched this, I thought to myself, well, how are we going to navigate this? Because, everybody else was watching things, they wanted to watch things. How do you keep them busy? That's what I did personally. So, like we did a lot of activity. We were outside every single day. We were doing a lot of trips. We were, basically it was nature-based learning. So our curriculum was nature. So there was no screens until sort of 10, but it was obviously it wasn't completely and utterly no screens. There was no, sometimes we'd watch something, maybe once a month or something. But the Waldorf approach is that you don't introduce that because it kind of, it's kind of it's really technical, but it's sort of like the way that the brain develops, it's not ideal. And what that would do is it creates that the imagination, etc., is just free to roam. And so when they get to a certain age, then technology is introduced, if necessary, like in the modern day world, and then they fly with it, which I think is quite funny because Noah, he was like, all right, okay, I can go on the computer now. I was like, yeah, because it's part of your education, or I'm doing this course, right? I'm going to code. I'm going to learn how to code, and I'm going to teach myself, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to make a game. And now he's really into game development. So, because one of the things that I was questioned about by parents or, other friends who were like, well, how is he going to navigate this modern day world with this insane amount of technology that we deal with on a daily basis? And I had to sort of, cringe a little bit and think, well, am I doing the right thing? And question myself. But at the same time, I was thinking, well, maybe this will all work out because the research said this, and I was reading a lot at the time. So I was thinking to myself, well, this is the best thing for my child. So I'm going to go with it and see what happens. And alhamdulillah, it worked out. So I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
Also, Doctora Effat, also how do you can see the difference between different generations, now and back then, and the way they deal with, with the reality or whatever, with attention and all of these things.
So, as I said earlier, that I can see it in my students, starting from an early educational experience in the 90s, where the students are similar. The way that they think. I then saw the changes every 2 years, let's say. And then it shrunk. It shrunk to each semester. And then it shrunk to one classroom from another. Imagine. So each classroom has different individuals, and each individual has different approach in the way they're thinking, and the way of navigating, and the way of communicating. So it's, for me, this is the challenge, that how can I, with 20 students, 13 students, 12 students, to understand their way of thinking, their way of their approaching, and their way of communicating with them. So this was a challenge. How do I find it? It's just clicking. It's just as I said earlier, it's from their eyes, to be honest. And knowing that there is a real communication going on, and having that, making sure that I am with them with their own level of thinking. And this was very hard for me to bring up these different stories, to bring up these different films, gaming, all of that, just to make sure that how can I bring all these keys, and how can I get through their doors? So each person, of each individual from that classroom, has a different way of thinking, and we have to be very equipped and knowledgeable, and to the point that we understand what's happening around us in the culture, to navigate also through them. And of course, it's not just me because I'm doing that. It's the way I'm communicating with the community. So it's as part of me, my individual character. Let's say, maybe Nahari, you know me. I love to navigate and go and talk and create these stories and create this communication with different people, just to understand where do I stand and how's things going around me.
It's interesting because it seems like everything now, I don't know, going to this idea of like what is the authentic thing in each individual. And I think this is, just like you mentioned that you look into the personality of each child. I think, I don't know, like we are in very interesting time in history where actually individuality has like so much value. I mean, this is exactly why art is there. But also, I think in this kind of spaces, we also understand what is between the individual and the community, and then also the institutions. So yeah, I'm really thankful for everyone here for bringing this space.
So just one thing also, it's just kind of like with what's been said, Yani, it's also about kind of like showing up and like, I know this is probably something that's been said a lot, but like failing faster. Like what a good facilitator does is that she holds or he holds space for the students so that they can kind of like mirror and see what they're capable of. And then kind of like have that space to stretch bit by bit, you know, and to have that like fail faster. And this is something that we've been really trying to teach our students because, you know, it's like the beginning, right? So this is their first way of navigating agency. I have all this freedom. What am I going to do with all of this? And this is something that's really scary and not many people talk about. And many people kind of like go through different silos in life to figure it out. And like you mentioned, also kind of like how to show up for my deadline and all of that. It's understanding these tiny nuances of when to kind of like let go, when to hold on, when to pull back, and when to kind of like push forward. It's to assess. And that's something that's not going to come in a day. It's something that you kind of like have to have that mental gym to kind of like push yourself out there. And I think this is what the role of teachers are. And like you mentioned, that we're really in a time where it's all about me, and individual-based learning and overconsumption. But we're really, we're so lucky that we live in a collective culture and we have this is part of our identity. And it's kind of like bit by bit slipping off because of like how AI, the new age media and things are. So it's like really learning how to kind of like bridge that gap as well. And not kind of like forget that, because you can learn so much, but then if you have all of this, what are you going to do with all of this? You need to share, you need to learn, you need to open, you need to find that space.
I maybe I would just say that this learning experience and like it's a cyclical thing. Like it keeps coming back and giving more. So now we have students, but I also have like former students, and I just keep running into more and more of them at different stages in my life. It's like a journey that keeps giving. And through the program also, we wanted to create like a ripple effect. So it's not just a one-time thing where the program is closed and we say our goodbyes, but we keep in touch. We keep doing more. I know with Noor, we're talking about coding circles on Saturdays. And I know some of you are also doing other things. I don't know what else to say. Thank you.